Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from 3 countries, 2 continents, and featuring 5 guys separated only by the same language. Here's your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you're listening. Joined with me this week, Mr. Chris Cute.
How's it going, everybody?
Mr. Joe Whitaker.
You're right, Sam, yeah.
And he's pretty much our resident tool, Jamie Page.
Hello.
Because we are, of course, this week joined by the crew, shall we say, of the Fools with Tools podcast. So I thought I'd I couldn't miss the opportunity there, could I, Jamie, really? So a big welcome to Al, Brett and Steve as well. So how you doing, guys?
Yeah, awesome.
Great.
I'm
Yeah,
Steve.
really good,
And I'm Steve. And I'm Steve.
And up, Steve.
2 minutes and I'm lost already. I thought this would be the case. Very quickly, our normal weekly shout outs and thank yous go to Gerald Redsmith, Jim Dockrell, Mike Fulton, Andrew McQuillan, and this is the most bizarre YouTube username I've ever come across, CMTHFAF. I'm presuming that's not a word, but some kind of acronym or abbreviation.
It's Welsh.
So,
It's Welsh.
could be, but there's only one vowel. So I guess
It could be Gaelic. You never know.
Cumfaf. Actually, it could be. Maybe
That's what Jamie just did to the Queen.
Twice.
He comes after.
Twice.
3 minutes in.
That's 2 derailments. Right, let's get this plane landed quick. Right, so also a huge shout out to everyone who is listening live and has been mentioning us and all the rest of it on social media, etc., over on SoundCloud, blah blah blah. Visit the website, makersinternationalpodcast.com. Today's podcast, as always, brought to you by Yorkshire Grit, the Wood Turners Abrasive Paste, and our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting. Jamie, we're still giving out mugs, aren't we?
Not today, but yeah.
Not today, not specifically today, but each month, I think, or something along those lines. So if you want to find out, I probably should do because I need to know what's going on. Go to makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors. I don't think we've got any random listener. I don't think we need any random listener questions this week, actually, do we, Chris?
Well, yes, we do. And I think Al has one.
Al's got it.
But of course, it's going to be Al. Random Al, over to you.
Al's got it. Right. So our very good friend Ragtie, I think he's everybody's friend because he's a legend. He sent me a really interesting question, actually. And I don't know if it was just aimed for me, Brett, and Steve, but I think it's applicable to everyone. Do you guys, as content creators and channel hosts, do you try to shoot for the very best videos and editing because of the viewers you'll be watching? Or because you know that other makers and creators are highly skilled, they'll be watching too? In other words, like, do you try and make things like good for the people who are watching because they're your fans or your followers or whatever? Or is it because you know that our fellow peers and our fellow makers are watching? Or is it somewhere in between?
I just don't do a very good job.
Yeah, I just kind of basically suck. So I just try to suck. I suck as little as I possibly can for everybody.
Nice.
I mean, that's.
There's a recurring theme here.
I'm doing it for myself, mainly. It's selfish reasons. It's more based on if I'm happy with it, then I'll put it out. If I'm not happy with it, it's not going out, kind of thing. So I don't really have a thought in mind of will people watching like this editing style or will other makers like it? It's if I like it, really.
Yeah. I'll just see how far I can push the Queen.
It's funny. I think I do a bit of everything for that because I have some, like a lot of my route videos are very much geared to people who are just getting into routing or don't necessarily know the tool. So I try and do it deliberately from a beginner's point of view. My editing does suck, and that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, you have to kind of live with that. But if I'm actually making something that's actually just a physical something, then I tend to do it more from somebody who can watch that doesn't need necessarily tuition. It's more entertainment than it is tuition. So if you get something out of it as a maker, you'd see it rather than have it explained. Whereas if you're just watching it because it's maybe, I don't know why it would be, but it might be fun, then it's not meant to be educational. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally.
What about you, Brett?
I know I play on the editing side of things because I do have a habit of making my videos have a storyline. Almost every single time has like a beginning, middle, and end. And that just comes from years of working in the production field where I like storytelling. I like to think I can shoot things well, but my idea behind every build is, where do I see the tip moments? Where do I see the actual execution of a build, and how to make that just as interesting for the person that doesn't know what I'm doing as it does for fellow makers that would also look at it and go, that's a really good take, or that is the right technique or something, so gaining respect from the peers, great. I think I push a little bit more for, I want you to come and watch the story. If you learn something along the way, that means we both win.
Awesome.
Can I just ask you, Brett, when because you are big on your editing, and I think you spend an awful lot of time doing the edits, and presumably you put a lot of effort into planning the filming as much as you do actually making whatever it is. When you're building something, is it just an idea that you think that'd be cool to build, or is there sometimes a functional necessity for something that you're making?
I definitely have a habit of, I don't necessarily adhere to the idea that everything I make is just cuz or just out of the top of my head. I typically, like, say the sword that I just did, right? I want to learn blacksmithing. I'm really getting into blacksmithing and moving metal around, and we've got the power hammer coming in, and so I wanted to see if I could do it by hand, because if I could make a sword by hand and then I get a power hammer, I should be able to repeat that slightly easier, right? So the reason I built the sword was to try a handful of different techniques and also let that be shown to the people that are watching me, right? The little tentacle thing I put on the back. John D. Harvey in our Fools with Tools room was nice enough to write up a page on how that technique was done. And then I went, oh my God, I'm going to use that and regurgitate it if you don't mind. And he goes, absolutely. Yeah, get it out there. So between that, heat treating the blade, dishing the steel, all that's new to me. And so I wanted to learn it. And then it's like, come along and learn with me, So I usually don't have a lot of planning. It's just kind of whatever pops in my head. But it's usually based on what I'm currently learning or what I would like to learn. And I think other people would also like to learn.
That makes sense. So do you sort of say, right, I'm going to make this because it uses that technique? So you want, you think, all right, there's this technique and I want to learn that. So that would be a good project using that technique. Or do you do it from sort of that end rather than saying, I want to make that, therefore I need to know how to do this, this, and this?
Yeah, it's more of it's definitely leads off with more of an education thing. Just to keep speaking about blacksmithing because that's where I'm at. But I think blacksmithing, and Steve can speak for me on this as well, but it's nice to be disarmed, right? The first time I took a class, I was so intimidated by blacksmithing because there's fire, there's heat, there's loud noises and everything. And you step into a place having never done that before, and you feel completely overwhelmed by everything that's going on around you. And then you start to do it, and then you make mistakes, and then you learn from those mistakes, and then it becomes you adapt to it, and your brain starts to figure some things out, and then you embrace it fully, and then it becomes this part of you that you're like, oh my God, I know how to move steel now. This is amazing. And so if I have a person watching me, I'm absolutely not there to be a master or anybody of authority to speak on, but we're learning together. Again, I go back to that. I want to show people what I'm learning because I feel like it disarms a lot of the intimidation factor.
I think we all do that, no matter what kind of format we happen to be working in. I mean, we're all kind of learning as we go, and we're kind of carrying some people with us, hoping that they follow us along. If they do, like you said, it's a win for both of us. If they don't, well, at least hope you enjoyed the video. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I think there's a combination, like with your last video, Brett. As you said, Rich, with a lot of your videos, and Chris, even with yours, there's a combination of sort of fun entertainment, but also quite instructional as well. You guys teach a lot. I learn a lot from watching you guys. Obviously, nobody's going to learn anything from watching my videos.
Except for how to make tacos.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah,
No, Al, you still hold the crown. You're the only dude I know who can pop on his workbench and a beer pops out of the damn thing. I mean, like, so trust me, you are an inspiration to at least one.
I'm glad you said inspiration, actually, Chris, because I think going back to how sort of Brett was described, he's doing something, he's learning something, and we go along for the ride. I get the impression that there is almost a blurry line between tuition and inspiration. And people see a video where you're just like, I don't know, I'm going to learn how to beat a piece of metal into whatever shape. So you start doing it on the video and people just assume that you know what you're doing. And then they try and copy that. And then you get criticized for it from the people that actually are panel beaters professionally and have been for 50 years, because they don't really realize, because you haven't explicitly said, I'm just hitting a bit of metal and see what happens. But it's fun and I'm learning a lot.
Right.
Rather than saying, hit it like this. And I think if you go down the, I want to do this and I'm having fun and coming along and have fun with me line, there's a very big difference between that and this is how you panel beat metal into a shape. And people that are just watching don't always get that. So it's interesting, where are you in how you're doing your video? And that was kind of when that went from. And yeah, Al, I completely agree with Chris. You might say, I can't teach anything, but it's not always about teaching. It's about getting that's a cracking idea.
It's a perfect example, because if you can make something look like fun, that's where interest starts. Because people are going to look at it and go, that looks like fun. I might want to try that. Somebody who might never have done it before. So you are being an inspiration in that way.
I actually learned how to pick up a side of a shed with my legs because of Al.
That wasn't on video, so where did you see that?
I didn't. I heard it on your podcast.
It's funny you say that, Rich, because literally my next video is going to be about 90% panel beating. And I'm not joking. It's something I've never done before, and it's definitely not going to be instructional. But it's going to be literally just me learning how to panel beat metal.
Yeah, I mean, because from my point of view, like with the blacksmithing stuff, if I was to do an instructional video in terms of this is how you do this is how you do that, then the video would be when I do nail teaching at festivals and that, it's 15 minutes long, and the first 5 minutes of that is teaching someone how to
teaching someone how to nail.
Yeah, teaching someone how to nail.
What kind of festivals are you going to?
We're talking about that. Not some websites for that.
15 minutes, fair enough.
You can condense it down to a really, really short thing, because you're there, and when they're actually doing it, you can go over and you can constantly correct what they're doing and how they're doing it and all that sort of stuff. But to put all that on video and to do it in enough, or to put enough information on there so that someone could then go down to their own workshop and do it, it would be an hour-long video just to make a simple nail. And nobody's going to want to watch that. Nobody's going to enjoy doing that. But if I can put a video out there making an axe drift or making an axe or whatever, and someone can look at it and they can go, oh, wow, that looks like great fun. I want to do that. And then they'll go and find their local blacksmith or look up like Alex's courses or whatever, and come down to Somerset and do the courses down here or whatever. Then they can learn how to do it properly. You're never going to learn how to do something properly from watching a video. You've got to get hands on and actually either do it yourself and make mistakes and figure out what works for you, or you've got to go learn from someone that actually knows what they're doing, and you've got to do that face to face. I think you're never going to pick up enough information from watching a video, because you need that person kind of over your shoulder going, no, you're holding it slightly wrong, just change this, or just don't do that. And it's all the little things that people don't think about that make a huge difference. Like for blacksmithing, for example, it's about knowing how to hold your hammer as opposed to how you hold your hammer when you're beating a nail in or panel beating or whatever.
Or when to use a ball peen versus a flat base, like you told me.
Yeah, and lots of little tricks and techniques that are impossible to put over in a video. You have to actually be hands-on, and you actually have to be able to tell people or correct people as they're doing it, as opposed to trying to think of every possible thing that someone could do wrong and tell them not to do it in a video, because like I say, you just end up talking for an hour and a half and not actually doing anything.
It's not like you.
It's got to at least appear to be fun and something that you want to do.
Exactly.
Otherwise, no one would ever be inspired. If it looked really dull and boring,
Exactly.
no one would ever do it. So.
What was that line you said earlier, Richard? There's a fine line between inspiration and what?
And tuition.
Yeah, it was nice. Could be a t-shirt.
T-shirt.
All right. Jesus.
Well, I'm
Nice
not,
guy.
if
No,
you
we
guys-
have- We have option number 5 for the Fools with Tools.
I'm not advertising it though if we do, because I'm getting thrown out of Facebook groups left, right, and centre.
Well done on the shirts, though, Al. If you haven't seen it, the guys from the Fools with Tools podcast, I think, Al, did you design those shirts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've got like 4. You did like 4 mock-ups for T-shirts, and you wanted people to just kind of chime in on which ones they like the most. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's nice just like asking people which ones they like before coming up with them. Just make it a bit of a two-way thing.
That's cool. I mean, because it would be cool to see some folks grab a T-shirt. I mean, once you get it decided on, and have them wearing them around Maker Settle, because we're all going there. And while we're talking about that, do you guys have, I mean, no one, I've listened to your podcast, guys, so I get it. Do you have any mischief kind of planned for when you're going to be
Only
What are
always.
you trying to imply?
I am a very by the book person.
Brett, I
good boys.
don't buy that for a second.
Which book?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Now, I can't speak for Scully, on the other hand.
We have got something actually really fun planned that we're trying to keep under wraps. It's something a bit experimental that we're going to try out. But other than that, it's kind of the same awesomeness that I think we're all super excited about. I mean, we spoke to Nick yesterday and kind of talked about all the logistics of the show and everything that he's got planned. It sounds amazing. But I know that all of us just want to go there and just get smashed and and share bacon and all this,
Absolutely. Well, we are, and I don't know, since you talked to Nick, because we talked to Nick last week and you just talked to him yesterday, we are actually going to be sharing a little space together, aren't we?
I
believe that's the plan.
At the show. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's going to be a space for both the Fools with Tools guys, and then we're going to try to creep into the corner and, be observed as well.
It'll be like at the wrestling where you have like the announcement desk and then you have the Spanish desk next to it. It will be on the Spanish desk and people just get thrown through the table and stuff.
Oh, this Maker Central's a real slobber knocker. Somebody's got to be king, and the other. We'll have JP be JR.
JR, yeah.
Here's King Lawler here.
And I'll be the announcer. And now fighting for attention, ladies and gentlemen, it is Joe Whitaker versus Al Zakshak.
Luckily, we've got a radio voice here. Fantastic. Yeah, this is going to devolve. I'm so excited, especially after talking to Nick yesterday. Not to derail our conversation too much, like for the 6th time, but I the more I talk to people and the closer it gets, you can tell that there's just a lot of this camaraderie behind. People want to go and experience it, and Nick has a lot of things that he's going to be offering. But I genuinely think this is an event unlike all the maker fairs and stuff in the US. Not that I've been to very many, but every time I hear about them, it's always kind of like there's 3 or 4 people everyone's going to pay attention to. There's going to be a lot of people selling stuff and some demos.
Yeah.
Nick is full on embracing this. Like, this is the first time we're going to have this type of crew together, and everyone's going to be there in the same space. And I'm pretty sure, regardless of any demos or anything that's going on, it's just going to be a lot of hugging and a lot of high-fiving and a lot of people coming up with dumb video ideas to shoot.
You know what? Probably too. And we initially, when we had a thought, and we obviously, and I know that Steve, you and I have talked, and I think I've spoken with Al about this as well briefly, about maybe putting something together for the Friday night. Did you guys want to go ahead and try to do that, or would you rather just go ahead and put the burden on the hotel and just say, you know what, we're here, freaking deal with us? I mean, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I kind of want to know we want to go forward because in case you're not aware, and there was a lot of behind the show conversations going on between Steve and I and Al as well about trying to put together something for the Friday night prior to when the show opens, that where we could actually host something at a local eatery or some gullible person who would allow us in
some pub that has like 100-person occupancy, and we just like, blow it up,
and we fill it up to like 500. But
There you go.
But did you guys want to do that, or would you really rather just kind of play it loose and carefree for the Friday night before and let the hotel go for it? Because I'm good either way. I mean, one is obviously the easier way. It's like, let's just show up with our pants down, or or we have to get proper and put our pants on, or I mean, how do you guys want to do that?
I mean, to be fair, I don't know what there is actually around the venue because I've not looked. All I know is there's one thing that I know we were talking about going to, which is the motorcycle museum. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think we're just kind of playing it by ear. But if anybody knows of somewhere nearby that everyone could turn up at, then I think it'd be a good idea. Because it's either that or we see what the situation is when we get there and just send out everyone gets on Instagram or Twitter or whatever you use and just says, right, we're all going to be here and go from there.
Go with the flow.
Joe can go and have a quick look now.
I want to have, let's just have Al wear that suit and we'll send him to the nearest pub and have him sweet talk somebody into letting 500 people show up, and we'll tap every keg they've got in store.
Well, if they still refuse, get him to turn into Wolverine.
Yeah, I've got the suit on.
You just have to walk in single file though through the door, so that the claim tiny mini just keeps going.
And will the last person to walk out the door please help the waitress back up off the floor? Yeah.
Oh. Steve was a doorman. Steve was a doorman in his earlier life. We'll just put him on payroll for the night.
Yeah. To be fair, I've still got my license. I'm still valid until November. So
there you go. So we'll promise him extra security for the night.
In fact, bollocks to it. I've got under the stairs. I've got 2 coolers. Not dead bodies, Al. I've got 2 beer line coolers, so we can get 4 taps going on that. So if everyone just brings along a keg, we can hook that up and just drink outside.
Yeah.
You know what, Steve? I don't necessarily dislike that idea. I think that is there a place local to, all right, you folks in the UK, is there a place by the NEC where we can possibly pick up a couple cases? Because I'm game for buying one.
Goodbye the side of the canal.
The Hilton parking garage will just take over one level of the parking garage.
Yeah, out the back of the Volvo. It'd be fine.
There's Molten Mate coming down who brews beer for a living.
Yeah.
Because Steve, I just view that as a tool that's going to waste that we should use. Let's make some Damascus beer.
Beer.
Isn't that just reflux?
No, it's just a matter. No, it's a matter of going down the taps and just mixing all the beer together and going, "Isn't that interesting?"
That could be messy, I think.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I'm definitely going to try and grab some. There's a cider farm just down the road from me, so I'm going to try and grab a couple polykegs of that to bring up as well, just because I want to see Chris drinking Scrumpy.
Nice.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
You're a Bristol boy, aren't you, Steve?
I'm about an hour south of Bristol. I work in Bristol, but I live about an hour south. So I'm like Dorset, Somerset sort of area.
Right. Okay. So a little bit further down. I thought you got to bring some exhibition cider.
Oh yeah,
This got to be done.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of this stuff that is quite local. It's called Cheddar Valley Red Cider, and it's a beautiful cider. It's bright red. It's the same color as Al's hair, completely flat. And tastes just like a really nice. It's slightly sweet apple juice.
Blooming hell! By the end of the show, Chris is going to be deep insider.
We started out talking about inspiration and things you do in your video work, and now it's just turned into people talking about beer and cider.
Yeah, and now I'm worried about my wife hearing this. It's like, It's not going to. Honest, honey, it won't happen. Shh, guys. But what happens in Birmingham stays in Birmingham. All right.
I was gonna say you won't be allowed back out if it does go wrong.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny because I got my passport today from the U.S. and this just basically says, yeah, we'll let you get the hell out of here. I'm not sure I'm going to get back in, but you guys may be stuck with me. I have no idea.
I'm sure it'll work.
Richard Martin just said over in the chat, he says, do you want me to get some cake to bring him down? There's a brewery on the site where he works and see if he can get a discount, and he's vegetarian friendly.
Oh my god.
Yes, Richard. Yes, Richard. If you can bring beer down and we don't have to pay for it, you should bring it.
And Sterling has also said, is it illegal to ship moonshine in Carry On?
No, Sterling, I think you should try. Why not?
You'll have to pass that through Chad. He might know better than anybody.
Well, literally pass it through Chad.
Has Chad become a filtration system that I'm not aware of? I really don't want to drink that if that's the case.
Mule crap.
Thanks, Al.
He's bringing a lot of mancrafting cups with him.
Oh, it brings a whole new term to the word mancrafting.
How do you turn the tap on?
Jesus. What have you done?
Better still, how do you turn the tap off once it comes on?
Oh my god.
Ouch.
Is it just like when you crack open a bottle and it starts frothing over, you just go quickly?
Oh, God.
Oh Jesus.
Oh.
So how about that YouTube's?
Brett, you actually look like you're trying to save a reputation of some sort. What the hell?
Oh, I have no reputation to be saved, sir.
That is where this event actually does stand out, though. Like you were saying about the American woodworking shows and stuff like that, they was self-contained events that the YouTube and online maker community kind of took over. So it was always a bit of an add-on, whereas this is solely for us, by us. So that's where it's really gonna be massive.
I know, and look, I'm kind of cracking jokes about how silly this has become in terms of our beer talk, but I have never met. Well, I met Chris briefly, but I've never met any of you guys, and I'm so looking forward to be able to hang out. And the other maker fairs, anytime I've debated on attending or whatever, it's always like, well, I guess I'll go, and then maybe I'll see somebody, and I guess I'll see some demos, but it never really seems like that much of a draw. I'm going way out of my way and spending like 2 weeks over in the area just because I think it's going to be that good of an opportunity. And I think everybody else has the exact same vibe about it, where it's going to be so much more of a communal driven show and people wanting to actually hang out and have a beer and chat about things rather than feeling so structured. Like you have to show up at 9 o'clock. Someone's going to be talking. You have to be there. Otherwise, you know.
Yeah.
I get the impression that there's going to be, everyone's going to be walking away from this. Oh, I missed such and such, and I missed such, because there just won't be enough time, because you'll end up bumping into somebody out of random and then talking to them for 2 hours. And then, you know, everyone's, we've got to go home now. And I genuinely think it's going to be like that. So I think for you guys coming over from the States, Brett, Chris, and obviously everyone else, 2 weeks is not a bad idea, because, you know.
Well, I'll be there for a week. And I plan on adopting the Bill Lutz attitude towards everybody that I know. And that's just basically, if I see you, I'm going to freaking hug you. Hi, how are you? Okay, so that way I can say, I'm going to remember that, because honestly, me hugging people is really kind of weird. But I mean,
depends how you hug them.
That's how. Well,
because you're not like really tall, are you, Chris?
No, and I'll be when Chad's over there. I'll hug him from behind. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that whole beer scenario to happen.
That's handcrafting.
Yeah. I'm gonna call that a spoon. Anyway, so yeah. But it's just, man, Brett, I agree with you 100%. It's not exactly, it is the event, but it's an opportunity for a lot of us to do something that, you know, at least from the States, from my point of view, coming from the United States, I've always wanted to go to the UK. I've never been there. I've been to Ireland, but I've never been to the UK, and it's been on my bucket list. And so I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm getting ready to go do something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, which is go to London and check out England. But at the same time, I'm getting to meet for the first time people that I know face to face that are just like way cool in my eyes. And I know it's just going to be a crazy time, and I'm going to wish I had more time. Even if I spent a month there, it wouldn't be enough, but it's the best I can do. So this is going to be awesome. I'm looking really looking forward to it.
Scully wants his bull, so you know, JP just can't steal him away for too long.
So what have you got planned while you're over here then, Brett? If you're coming over for a fortnight?
Al and Steve, considering we've never met each other. Yeah, and we've been doing the podcast for so long. I had quite a long chat with those guys for a few different sessions. We talked about things we were going to try and accomplish while we were over there in terms of just tightening up our approach, doing some cool things with, you know, the Fools with Tools crew, going to the Forge with Steve, being able to learn a little bit more on site, talk to Alex, his boss. Forge boss. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'll be staying with Al on and off while I'm over there. He's been nice enough to allow me in. So I want to do some stuff in the Hack Shack. We have a couple of fun ideas planned just between the two of us. I want to experience as much as I possibly can, and luckily I've got these two guys that are helping me along. But my plan was to go over there with. I know I have 2 days that are relatively structured for the show. But I'm spending a lot of time over there because I want to allow myself to kind of, you know, fly where the wind takes me. I don't see any reason, if I'm already paying the money to go over there, there's too many opportunities to do stuff with talented guys like Steve and Al that I never get to hang out with and have never met before. So might as well take advantage of it.
Speaking of that, and I want to switch gears real quick, if it's okay with you, Richard, because I want to talk about your podcast. I mean, how did you guys? Whose idea was it initially to start with the Fools with Tools podcast?
Yeah, that was me. Basically,
tell us the genesis of how you guys got started, because it's awesome. You guys do a great job.
Basically, I started getting into the whole making thing. I was spending a lot of time on Instagram and listening to a lot of podcasts. And I realized that there wasn't much in the way for it all seemed very American centric, except for like you guys. It seemed like everyone else was an American podcast, and there was loads and loads of these American podcasts out there, and none that were UK based, or the one that was UK based. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, maybe I could put something out. And I thought, it'll just be a bit of fun. It'll get me out there involved in the community a bit more. I'll get to meet a few more people and all that. And a friend of mine, Rob, ran another podcast called 3 Men and a Podcast, and it's a music-based one, and it's all good and fun. And he just started getting into woodwork. He was doing spoon carving and stuff like this. And I was like, oh, maybe, you know, I'll speak to Rob and see what he says. And long story short, we ended up going, right, okay, let's start doing it. And we started recording it, and it was a bit kind of ad hoc. We'd do it as and when we could, and it went well. And then
it all went downhill one episode.
And then for some reason, I decided it'd be a good idea to get Al on as a guest, and he came on, and it was.
You would do that on a podcast.
I know. It was good fun, completely organised, and not at all chaotic show. And then he just didn't leave, and just kept coming back. and then Rob turned around and went, "Oh no, I think I've had enough. I haven't got time. I've got some other things going on. I've got to leave." So Rob went off and did his own thing, and me and Al were like, "Well, okay, let's just run it as the two of us for now." And we were like, "Okay, if we're going to do it, let's take it a bit more seriously. Let's do it every week. Let's get it out on the same day every week, and let's try and act like professional podcasters, sort of thing." And yeah, and then we got Brett on as a guest one day, which I was really excited about, because it was I saw Brett as this guy that was out there doing really, really cool stuff, really, really interesting content, someone to really look up to and aspire to. And I got him on the podcast, had a fantastic chat that just ended up being like the three of us talking as friends rather than doing anything about making as such. And then I think it was later that week, Brett messaged and was like, "That was really fun. We should do that again. If you guys ever want another guest, then just give me a shout." And I think I said to Al, I said to Al, like, what do you think about maybe asking Brett if he wants to come on regularly and like be a third host? And it's the only time that Al's ever replied instantly, and it was just yes. So yeah, we then got Brett back on, and it just kind of turned into the mess that it is nowadays.
Oh, it's not a mess. It is
a fantastic mess.
It is an amazing mess because it's very entertaining. You guys do a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
You really do. You really do, because you keep me entertained, and I'm I'm not easy. I'm not easy to please. I mean,
that's our audience.
Sorry, Joe, you're gonna have to edit that one.
That's also our host, one of our hosts. I've told these guys loads of times that up until fairly recently, I would say within the last 6 months, there was a lot of times in my young life where I didn't feel like I got along with very many people, or many people didn't really like understand where my brain was all the time, and the kind of ideas I would come up with for hobby projects, and amidst working for, corporate America, New York City, it was terrible. And then I started hanging out with these guys, and since I started the podcast, I will genuinely say, since I started the podcast, everything has been so positive, because we've gotten to meet people like you, Eloy, and those guys, had me and Al on, and I've gotten to chat with Jamie a few times, off the grid.
Not all positive then.
Yeah, and it's just
ups and downs.
The community just grows, right? Everyone always talks about the community and how good it is. It's because it's true. We don't talk about it because it's some lie that we're all trying to brush over. It's crazy that I got picked up by Steve and Al, and it was so much fun, and it was so enjoyable. I felt like I had a platform to actually talk to some people that got along or had the same mindset as me. And then I just got to meet more people through the podcast. And then it just became this space where, yeah, I may be one of the hosts now, but I still feel like a guest regularly. Like I'm allowed to come in and do all this fun stuff for an hour or two a week. It's fantastic. It's been nothing but awesome since I started. So much appreciation.
It's almost like the. Sorry, Steve. I was going to say it's almost like the kind of the way candy floss or cotton candy works. You end up drifting around that bowl for long enough, or things get just attracted to it, and you end up with this mass of different thoughts and people's ideas and personalities and likes, and each stick as each individual person has its own kind of group, and it's weird how that works.
Yeah. What have you done with the real Richard? Because this guy's coming out with some amazing stuff tonight.
It's another T-shirt.
That's a beautiful analogy, Rich. I love that.
Yeah.
Could have gone with the toilet bowl instead.
No, floating around like
masses all floating around in the bowl, coalescing.
When the toilet paper all sticks to the brush bristles. Oh,
that's it.
The classic.
There's always one that stays to the end.
So, Steve, you were going to say.
What Brett said is basically exactly why I wanted to do the podcast, is to just I got so much out of the community, and I wanted to put a little bit back in, and the amount of work that it takes for us to jump on for a few hours, record something. I'll spend a little bit of time, a lot of time editing it, and then get that out. And the reward we get back from that is absolutely insane. The guys that are in the Fools with Tools Facebook group, it's absolutely phenomenal. And so we had the guy who was on, he posted this week, and he made a knife, and the knife had cracked. And he said that he was posting it here because he didn't feel comfortable posting it on Reddit or anything like that, because he didn't want people to give him a load of stick for doing it, and for breaking the knife. And he was like, so I thought I'd post it here because I'll get some constructive responses then. and it was like 60 odd replies to that one post, and every single one of them was being helpful or asking a question, or like really, really good interactions. And to think that us three idiots had created a community where that happens was absolutely incredible. And like I've never been so proud of anything I'd done like up until that point. Like, it was absolutely amazing to think that, you know, we within this huge community, we'd created this tiny little space where such cool stuff was happening. And I mean, I get the same thing when I go onto the Makers on YouTube site, like that group. There's so many cool little things going on there, and everyone's positive, everyone's bigging each other up, everyone's supporting each other and looking out for each other. And yes, there is a lot of people giving each other stick, like people that live in Yorkshire and stuff like this. Like,
what fun would it be if we didn't? I mean,
and yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say it's really good to see, and I love the fact that you guys have done the same thing, and that makes all the work that we do, even if we spend like 3 days solid working on this, it all makes it worthwhile, because it's just such a nice feeling to have that come back.
I mean, Makers on YouTube is kind of it's that one group where I'd feel comfortable posting something, or I'd feel comfortable like asking a question.
Yeah.
You know, even like the I like to make stuff group, like you know, it's big enough that it's kind of a bit intimidating, or there's people in there that maybe you're not, you know, I wouldn't see as kind of on exactly the same plane as me, or same thought process. But I know in your guys' group, and when you set that up, I mean, was it a similar feeling? Did you? Because it's a big group now, right?
Yeah, well, it's gotten up there, but it's a lot like what we were talking about earlier, guys. Remember, before we went on the air, we were talking about, and if you've monitored the chat, you'll see that it's happening again today. Just because we're doing this show, it doesn't necessarily mean the people who are gathered here today are actually listening to a damn thing we say, because there's all sorts of conversations going on over here on this chat that have nothing to do with the current conversation we're having, and so we're currently kind of creating a little community where people get a chance to get together for a reason, you know, and that is just awesome. I mean, even if we only did this show and had like a constant hum because, you know, Al was cussing his butt off and Joe had to edit him, you know, this conversation over here would still be going on, and I think that's awesome. I mean, I agree with you, Steve. It's something to be. It makes you smile. I don't know that I'm necessarily proud of it, but I'm just happy that we're able to do it. You know, it's like that's cool. I think that's just awesome. I mean, this doesn't make me any better. It's these guys are doing it. It's the community that handles this whole friggin' thing, and they're awesome on their own. So rock and roll.
I think it makes it easier because you've all got that initial similarities between your likes, your dislikes and stuff, because you might follow a particular podcast or watch a certain person on YouTube. So you haven't got that awkwardness of, does this person like this kind of thing or anything? Everybody's there for that same reason. So the awkwardness goes out the window, and I think that's what will be happening at Makers Central. The fact that there isn't going to be an awkward conversation, I don't think, anywhere, because everybody knows. You could rock up to a randomer who you've never seen before, don't know them from Adam, start up a conversation about making something, and you know they're going to be interested because that's the whole reason why they're there.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, more than that, I think you're going to find that people are going around, and people that don't even know who. Like you'll be walking along and you'll see someone in a Team Scroll Saw shirt. You won't even know who they are or what they're doing, and you're just going to run up and hug them. and they're going to be okay with that. They're not going to go, "What the hell is this?" They're going to go, Team Roller, like Fools with Swords or whatever, and it's going to be good. And I'm so looking forward to it.
Well, to be fair, I don't think Richard's going to hug Team Scroll Saw anytime soon.
I'll replace the word hug with ridicule, and you probably
I will.
Yeah.
They'll all be carrying around Jamie on like a throne.
waving the leaves.
Yeah.
It's luckily I sold so many then, isn't it?
Oh, how's that battle going anyway?
Oh, I won, of course.
We're not talking about that, Joe. That's
I won, of course.
Jamie won it. Jamie won it. Hands down. Team Scroll Saw won that one. So, guys, that were
11.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, what can I say? People who have Scroll Saws have more money than people who have.
You're not first, you're last.
and also, I think
last.
Not only did you win that, you actually had more people purchasing, as in individual people that got T-shirts, but some people were buying multiples, I think, weren't they? It was because Joe, you can see the list.
Yeah,
there were
a
couple of people that bought 2 T-shirts, and that kind of goes back to what Steve was saying about you get this community that is really behind a particular thing. Unfortunately, it's a scroll saw, but you can't have everything. But it genuinely underpins that.
A lot of those multiple purchases, they all seem to be going to Jamie's house.
I did notice that. Yeah. Jamie's got these huge boxes behind him.
We tried that, but Joe was able to look it up, and unfortunately, we found out that wasn't the case.
Don't say that, Chris. You spoil it.
Because I wanted to be ignorant, but Joe said, "No, I can find that out." I'm like, "Oh, Joe, don't kill it! Don't kill it!"
I'll tell you one thing that I'm kind of a bit nervous about with Maker Central, and that is I don't want it to sound big-headed because genuinely it's not, but if you've ever been anywhere and somebody's recognized you because you were on a video, that is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because it's always, for me, it's always been somebody who I've never actually met before. So it's literally like a complete stranger in the street has come up to me because they recognized who I was. And it happened a couple of times at show. The first one was Carol calling it KK Make.
Oh, nice.
And, I recognized him, but it took enough time for me to have that kind of stupid, what have I done? And for me to look just an utter idiot. And then, the penny drops and you kind of get into it. And that still makes me nervous. So do you guys, I mean, with the podcast and, obviously Brett's kind of a lot connected to makers in the States, and do you think that's likely to happen? Have you experienced it before even, or?
I've never been recognized. We live, Jim and I have the shop and it's in East Durham. So there's nobody up here. The population of this area is next to none. I haven't had that situation yet. I don't even know really how to feel about that, because there are some people in the Fools with Tools room that are very active and they seem to really enjoy what we're putting out. And I know a couple of them are going to be there. So it's going to be very interesting to have never met or interacted with these people physically. I don't know if they've subscribed to all of us or if they watch all of our videos, but if somebody walks up and goes, "Brett," and I don't know what they're, because I'm really good at putting names to faces. Like if I've met you, I rarely forget you. I have the opposite problem of when people are like, "Oh, I can't remember names. I only remember face." Like I have the opposite of that. I remember everything about you and everything we talked about. If I meet a complete stranger and they know who I am, it's going to be very interesting, because I've never dealt with that before.
Nick's got a real gem. So if you listen to the Fools with Tools podcast about recognizing people.
Oh yeah, that one was fantastic.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I mean, 2 things, by the way. First of all, Brett, you and I live, by the way, about an hour away from each other, so someday we should get together. And Al, when is that podcast coming out? Because you guys just talked to Nick. We talked to Nick last week, but I'm quite sure that you guys were able to take a different take on Nick than we did. So,
you kind of did all the hard work. Like you did all the groundwork and asked all the good questions. So we were just like,
we just got to talk about.
So, Steve, Brett, when is this? When is that podcast going to be released?
That should be Wednesday, hopefully.
So the same. Okay, this gets re-released on Wednesday as well, but ours is like Wednesday at 4:00 in the afternoon when this will be re-released. So do you guys have a set time when you release your videos? I mean, your audio podcast on Wednesday?
After whenever Steve has had 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah. Basically, when I get around to it, and that's it.
Nice.
So if you're looking for that, well, I'm trying to pimp your podcast, guys. So I'm give me a break here.
I thought you guys were a Tuesday release.
It's whenever Steve can be bothered, basically. It's like if Brett's been swearing too much, like he normally does on most episodes. Like, it takes ages to edit it out, so like it comes out on like a Friday. But like if it's a nice clean episode, it come out on a Tuesday.
Honestly, the reason it takes so long to edit our podcast is because we're supposed to record for an hour and that's it. What we do is we spend 40 minutes at the beginning after I've hit record of just chatting utter I won't say that word because I like Joe, but
That's
we'll
right.
be it's all right. But we'll be chatting whatever, and then I'll have to go through that because I'll have to find a little clip to put in for like the intro bit, and then we'll go into the intro, and then we'll have to redo the intro because Al's being a person, and then we'll have to redo the intro again because Brett then decides that he's going to be a person, and yeah, it just ends up going on like that. And then
It's the greatest thing on the planet when Steve is like, "All right, you guys ready?" And he goes, "Hello and welcome. I'm Steve." And then me and Al both go, "And I'm Steve." We just do that 2 or 3 times until it loses its punch.
So it could come out in theory on Monday morning, but
Yeah.
it's just never going to.
Oh, we could probably put it out a couple of hours after we record it. but-
No, we should totally steal that so that every time Richard opens up our podcast with hello, each one of us should say goodbye. So hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye.
That's one of the benefits of doing it live, though, because then we're kind of forced to just crack on with
to
it.
behave. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is because we'll pause for the when we do the people we think are spiffing as well. We'll pause there, and like genuinely, sometimes we'll get 10 minutes of chat between them. Normally, I think the most I've had to cut out was 40 minutes of just inane
40
yeah,
minutes. Holy
40 of just us just blithering on about some random thing.
You know what? If you're going to do Patreon, release that 40 minutes because I want to hear it. I'll pay.
Brilliant.
You should do a Fools with Tools live one day.
We've talked about it, and it may happen. We just need to get organized. I think that's the main thing. We're not like you guys. We can't like dedicate and say every Sunday evening we're going to be there because we're useless.
Well,
You know what?
but it's not
They
just that.
can't.
You
They
suffer
can't.
the same kind of thing that we do. It's not just a couple of hours difference. There's 5 hours separating time wise. So it's always going to be a challenge. And I think it took a couple of weeks of us going, well, when should we do it? Well, I can do Fridays. And it's like, well, actually, every other Friday I'm doing this. And then Joe would be like, oh, well, I could do Saturdays. But oh, no. And then it was like Sunday was the only day.
Yeah.
And it's still awkward because it's afternoon and evening. So sometimes it's really late. And then Joe decides to go off to Arizona and forget what time it is. It just so it still has its challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I
The
mean,
thing to do is just don't include Americans. It keeps it simple that way.
Oh, jeez. Here it comes.
to be fair, it's more my fault than anybody else because I work shifts, and so I do 4 on, 4 off. So every 4 weeks, I'm working on Sundays, and some of those Sundays means that I can't record until like midnight, and then we can't really record at midnight because obviously Al's got work the next day. So it just ends up being a nightmare. So we quite often have to record on random days. I think before now we've recorded a few times. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. We recorded on a Wednesday night, and then I had to edit and put it out that night. So that was a fun one.
I can't remember what episode it was. I remember listening to one, and I think you literally said, "I've got 2 minutes, and then I'm on call. So if we all stop, it'll be like that's dedication. That is."
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun one.
Do you know, I was listening today to your last podcast. It was, and I'm not even finished it yet. What was the title of it? Something bizarre. The problem's not the problem. It's the that one.
Yeah.
And the audio was really. It wasn't. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't bad, but some of the I'd have to turn it up because I couldn't hear Brett, and then I'd turn it down, and I turned it up to the sort of I can hear Brett. Al's a bit loud, but I can hear Brett, or whichever way around it was. And then all of a sudden, I'm driving down the road, and it's just, I honestly thought myself, I was like, I thought we were going to break all the speakers.
We really want everyone to pay attention to who's spiffing. Doesn't matter what we say before that, 40 minutes prior. We just need 5 minutes of your time, and we need all of your attention.
Because if anybody gets to be spiffing, they want that kind of lifetime to spiffingness.
But we have some fun ideas. Not to hint too much, but I don't think it's a huge giveaway. But I think when I'm over there, we're gonna discuss or talk about some new things that we can do for jingles and whatnots.
Yeah.
Because if anybody else knows, Steve's significant other is an extremely talented musician, and we may tag her in to help with a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Nice.
I guess that's the advantage of doing the kind of pre-recorded thing, because we've talked about little bits here and there, but it's just a nightmare trying to do it live. So you've got that, 40 minutes to edit out for the jingle. And excellent. So we're talking about kind of the whole spiffing thing and all the rest of it. Obviously, we can't do a funky jingle, and I'm assuming that nobody can sing.
Ow, hit it. All Japanese. All your Japanese do the Full Metal Alpha
thing. Live jingles is the future.
Oh God, I'm not even going to attempt.
Actually, that would be a retraction because they used to do that in old time radio.
Oh yeah.
They did.
Now we're
just
Chris will tell you all about that.
Yeah, Chris.
Here we go. Here's my old time take on that. Now we're spiffing.
I'm cutting that out and using that.
There's your segue. So go ahead. And that was totally out of tune and really not good, but I mean, you get the idea.
Beautiful.
And I'm
Just like old time radio.
And I'm not embarrassed. No, to hell with you. I'm not embarrassed. All right, shut up. All right, guys.
So do you guys have anyone that you want to spiff out this week?
No,
Anyone?
they don't apparently.
Fine. Well,
Not if you say it like that.
Spiff out means something totally different, Richard.
Yeah.
no, it doesn't. What?
Hey, this is a British thing. You guys argue amongst yourself. Brett, do you got anybody you've been watching lately?
I'm watching Al. I'm waiting for Al to get this video done or this build done. He's got a really exciting build that he's working on right now.
A long time coming.
Honestly, I know we could be looking for other shout outs and stuff like that, and this is probably a little self-serving, but I seriously hope we can get more content out of both these guys. I love what Steve and Al are both doing with their channels. I hope we can all get more out of it because they're already doing great things with the podcast. I appreciate being involved in it, but I really like their take on making, and I want to see more out of both of them.
Okay, well they'll be linked regardless. So I mean, we'll take care of that. So that's cool, awesome. All right, who else?
I've got one. So this is somebody. I think it's somebody that Laura Kampf talked about when she joined us. Caroline Hinz.
Yes.
And she's got an Instagram account called Prop Shop Berlin. And basically she makes like awesome props for stage productions and television and movies and stuff. And you just got to go check it out because it's unbelievable. Some of the things she makes, they're all like really kind of larger than life things, massive octopuses and just huge insects and beasts. And it's just really sort of otherworldly. And it's just a fantastic account. And she's a real kind of inspiration. So if you don't know Caroline, I suggest you go check her out.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I would say, like, to be perfectly honest, I could follow Brett's thing and be nice to those two, or I could follow Al's thing and just talk about someone else. But
Wait, what? There's another option? Where are you going with this, Steve?
but I just want to say, like, if you want to find some awesome, amazing, talented people, then get yourself onto the Makers on YouTube Facebook group or the Fools with Tools group or both, and just interact, because there's some really, really cool people that are in both those groups, and yeah, just interacting with them on a daily basis is fantastic, and it's really, really great.
That's awesome. I agree with you. Thank you.
There's also a kind of a sideline advantage to doing that as well, actually, Steve, and that is it genuinely improves your Facebook feed.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
If you just go on a group occasionally and just look at things and like, yeah, I like that picture and I like that picture and all that, you don't get the same benefit. If you comment on a couple of things and genuinely get involved, the whole of your feed changes very quickly. And all of a sudden you start seeing things that you actually want to see. It's a really bizarre thing. I've noticed it in the last fortnight, I think, is probably, if I'm honest, but it genuinely improving. Same with Instagram as well. It's really quite
Yeah, it's
Magical.
Awesome.
it's more magical because I get to see American politics go away from my Facebook feed.
Right?
There are some freaking insane people out there. I don't know.
Don't even get me.
I know
started.
Jamie's,
we're not
Jamie's
even-
insane.
We could do a 2-hour show on that. It's like I'm not going to go there. The nonsense that's out there on Facebook. Anyway,
Yeah.
So where are you going to go then, Chris?
I'm going to go with welcoming back a friend of all of ours back to YouTube after a hiatus that he has had to be on because he's been building his shop. I want to say a big welcome back to my buddy Izzy Swan. Izzy put out a video this week for the first time in quite some time, and it's because he's been unable to do so. And I know it was a big thing for him to be able to get back out there and do it. But if you haven't seen the video, go check it out because he made this thing that helps you do sledding. And for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere that never see snow, first of all, we hate you. Second of all, sledding is something you do on snow when it's extremely cold out. But he built this thing to help you go sledding, even if you don't have a hill to sled down. He made this thing you can strap to a tree and go sledding. And I just thought that was awesome. So, Izzy, welcome back to YouTube. We missed you, and I'm glad you're here, my friend. And that is one man that I do and sincerely admire because he is all about the community, and I'm all about the community as well. So I totally relate to Izzy Swan, and I'm just glad to see him back.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned. I've got this I haven't seen the video, but I've got this thing in my head where you strap this thing to a tree, and it's
Izzy. So it's
into a tree, and it's Izzy as well. So that's probably like, I think I've got to watch the video actually.
and it's drill powered. So yeah.
That's kind of a given, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, of course it is. It's Izzy. It's going to be drill powered. So that's my shout out for this week, Izzy Swan.
Awesome.
So, presumably Jamie's been too busy watching YouTube because he's been doing his scroll saw, 48-week marathon with the Queen.
I still actually have time to do it. But before I do that, I've got Jamie's page.
Oh, God. You know, what's sad? No, wait. What's sad about that is we actually do have a jingle for that.
Jamie's page. And on that is one quick thing. It's Carl Jacobson's 50th birthday today.
Oh, excellent.
Birthday, Carl.
Yeah. Soon going to be going great, Carl.
The day I got an email that said Carl Jacobson purchased a T-shirt from me, I lost my mind. And he sent me a picture wearing it, and I remember just like, what?
Brilliant.
Carl's been such
He was actually very happy about that T-shirt because it made him look thin.
Hey, I pay the extra money to get those printed so that they, really make you look good in them. In case anybody wants to buy one, I got.
Anyway, my shout out. I'm not going to say much about it because otherwise it'll take you away from the video. But basically, what it is, it's a review video, and there's some money saving tips in there of a Harbour Freight HVLP spray gun from Jake Thompson at Northside Custom Crafts.
Good stuff. He does some nice videos, Jake. I quite enjoy his and he's a nice guy as well.
Yeah, top guy.
Yeah.
What about Joe? Is he? Yeah.
Mine's a bit more random. It's not anybody in particular, but I don't know if anybody else has noticed a bit of a trend recently in the last couple of days or few days. Everybody seems to be making like solid balls out of aluminium foil that's all scrunched up and then like hammered solid and polished. It's everywhere, and I've watched a couple and it's just therapeutic to see. So search aluminium foil spelled correctly, not aluminum.
No, what? I'm trying to translate this for the American audience. What is it you're just talking about? What is it?
It's
aluminium. Aluminium
Tinfoil.
There's this element. That's it. Tinfoil in the UK as well. But the element aluminium, it's correct name.
So it's friggin' Reynolds wrap, is what you're talking about. It's okay. It's aluminum foil for those of you in the States. Okay.
Yeah. And I think they're polishing their balls afterwards.
So Joe's shout out this week is going to somebody else's balls. All right, great. Okay.
That's an interesting one. I'm still trying to get my head around the whole. How do you come up with that idea?
It's literally it's just compressed. That's all that they've done, but it's the polishing of it that it's like It's like, have you ever seen the Mythbusters episode where them shining a turd?
Yes.
Similar to that.
Yeah, but
So
I'm thinking I know, but where do you get the idea from? Is it like just frustration of when you're trying to wrap the turkey or whatever, and you pull it off? It's like it's never big enough, and you screw it up, and then you end up with like loads, and you get wrapped up in it yourself because the thing comes out of the little cardboard tube. And how do you come up with that idea in the first place?
You pulled off the turkey.
What? Not this year, no. But you got
and then
Spaco foil just goes all over the place. You can never get the right sized bit that you want, and then if you do, it always tears at a stupid angle. So one side's long enough, and then the other side isn't, and then
Come on, Al, you're the chef.
Richie, I think we delved into a few of your personal problems here.
I'm really good at using a router, but aluminum foil.
It's just
Eludes me.
It's a challenge.
No offense, mate, but I don't know if you're ever going to get into blacksmithing if you're having a much problem with it.
No, I don't think it's really blacksmithing, but I think most people know my background's in aero engineering. So I've done a fair, not massively, but I work mostly with aluminium actually, because it's aeroplanes. And
Reynolds wrap.
One of the things we had to do was turn a sheet of flat aluminium into a blister panel to go over a component that stuck outside a few, and that's just hitting a flat bit of metal for hours with an egg-shaped wooden mallet on a sandbag for days. I remember doing this, and then you don't anneal it and you've got a tear in it and you have to start again. It's like that's 3 days wasted.
Wow.
It's just highly stressful and not something I particularly want to do again, to be honest. So probably won't take any smithing lessons at all.
Yeah. But to be fair, blacksmithing is a lot harder than woodwork.
Get him off.
Shots fired.
No, you know what? What you need to do, because you're in the UK, get yourself on BBC iPlayer, and actually anyone in the UK or anyone anywhere that's got access to BBC iPlayer in the UK, there was a thing on BBC4. Genuinely, you'll find this really interesting, about the history of blacksmithing through the ages.
Yeah.
Did you see that? It started off with the farrier basically making the horseshoes, and then it turned into all that ornate.
Richard, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm just like, if you.
I care, Richard.
Well, no, I tell you what, Steve. The next time you screw up doing woodworking, try to weld those pieces back together.
I've got a video coming out about that. So
yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
It's like welding in a bottle. But no, seriously, if anyone's listening, go and look on BBC iPlayer. And there was actually a wood carving one as well.
Yeah.
That was. I'll try. If that wasn't going to be my shout out, I'll try and find some links for people because I can't even remember what the show was called. But going back to the whole challenge thing, this weekend I had my daughter with me, and if anyone's got kids that are kind of between, I think 7 and 14, the challenge is to get them off the iPad. And I spent the whole weekend with my daughter, and we did some candle making.
Awesome.
Just making candles and blah blah blah. If you can see them on my Instagram, but that kind of translated down the line. So my shout out this week is actually going to be, and you don't need a link. Everyone knows Jimmy DeResta, but some of his really early videos. If some guy in America called Jimmy DeResta or DeResti. Anyway, he doesn't talk much, but he seems to have some skills. Some really early videos when he did mold making and bookbinding.
Yeah,
he made the giant drawing pin things and loads of books. Well, my daughter started doing candle making, and then we were talking about the molds, and she was like, she couldn't get her head around the concept of a mold and how it's shaped. So I showed her that video, and that then linked into one of his bookbinding videos, and she was like, oh, that looks fun as well. So you've got this 10-year-old who just spends her time watching other people play video games on YouTube, which I just don't get anyway. The interest then went from actually doing something into something else, and now it's gone on. She's kind of leapfrogged down the line, and just for the sake of watching these couple of videos, she's got the inspiration to do 2 other things. And I think that just that whole kind of concept of it, which sort of goes back to what we were saying before about the whole candy floss thing and the difference between teaching and doing, and I love that. It's brilliant. So
it's awesome.
Awesome.
That's my shout out, and obviously proud daddy moment as well.
Brett done bookbinding 20 years ago.
Yep. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Man, that's an inside joke, Jamie. No one gets that.
Right, I'm going to keep still quiet then, because I was genuinely going to be interested and ask a question then, so I'm just going to brush on over.
No, push on.
Considering we're 11 minutes over and
11 minutes over, yeah.
Joe's already having a conniption, you may want to
Just
wrap it up.
sweating.
So everyone knows where we can be found on our website, makersinternationalpodcast.com, but where can you three individually be found, and where can we find your podcast and all the rest of it?
I'm on MySpace.
Nice.
On your own.
Yep, I'm on MySpace. It's just me at myspace.com. I'm the only one there.
He's the last one.
Me and Joe. Joe, right? He was the originator guy that everyone's friends with. Okay.
Wasn't that Tom?
Al, let's start with you. Where can we find you, buddy?
You can find me on Instagram at Al's Check. And you'll find me on YouTube and Facebook at Al's Hack Check.
Steve?
Cool. You can find me at Moonshine Metalworks on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to get hold of the Fools with Tools as a collective, we are on fwtpodcast.com or on Instagram at fwtpodcast.com. No, FWT Podcast. Or you can join the Fools with Tools group on Facebook, which is probably the best way to interact with all of us.
And Brett, when you're not on MySpace, do you go anywhere else?
Vero.
What happened to that?
Fucking, who cares? I feel like I need Neil here, or it's just like, oh, I'm on Vero. Vero. Yeah, Instagram, Skull and Spade 13, YouTube, Brett McAfee, my name, spelled like the antivirus software that everybody knows and lies that they don't.
All right, Richard.
That's it.
I think you're right. I think that actually is it. So I knew it'd be just not worth trying to put any plans or notes together before the show, and thank you for proving me right for the last hour and a quarter. So genuinely a lot of fun, but as I say, I knew it would be. I've got nothing left to say, so I think thanks for coming on. Go and see
Thanks
the
for
guys.
having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
See you all at Maker Central.
Oh, it's going to be a good one.
I'm now even more nervous. So, yeah, it should be good fun. So if anyone is still listening, thanks for still listening. And if not, who cares? We'll see you again next week. Take care.
Have a great week,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Next week.
Moonshine Metalworks.